The tiles beneath my sneakers were scrubbed so hard the polish bled into the fluorescence overhead. When the elevator doors hissed open, I remembered the smell. Hospitals always pressed a particular hush into you, antiseptic, laundry, something else. The walls closed in on my bare arms, shivered from the lingering soul spring chill. I glanced at my watch, watching the second hand tick towards something inevitable, willing it to slow down. Voices erupted down the corridor. Familiar and sharp. Chasing what? Fables? Shameful displays in front of neighbors? He's ill, and you're running around with notebooks, pretending someone cares. Uncle, please, I said, but he cut his eyes at me. These so-called stories? Shame, he repeated. I heard Hari snort. Other people your age are exam tutors, doctors. You wander chasing scandals, bringing home nothing but questions and embarrassment. My mother's stare felt heavier than all the city's winter coat. Why can't you settle, Minseo? Your cousin got into Samsung as an engineer. He helps at the church. All you do is dig up trash. Mrs. Kim's daughter just passed the bar, my uncle added, as if facts were weapons. Fear tangled with defiance in my chest, a familiar tangle. I believe what I do matters, I whispered. My mother laughed, bitter. Go believe somewhere else, not at your father's bedside. A nurse brushed by, checking monitors. Through the glass, my father turned slightly, tubes sprouting from his hand. Old, frail now. His eyes fluttered toward me, then away. The shame was heavier than the silence of the white corridor. I tried to make my voice quiet. I just want to see Appa. Let your father rest, my mother insisted. He needs peace, not to worry over your delusions. I didn't fight her. Not really. I just pressed my palms over the sting in my ribs and let the corridor squeeze me thinner. Even at 27, I didn't know how to answer them. I wanted to shout, remind them of all the things hidden beneath the city's glow, the stories people didn't want to hear, but my tongue stuck. I left behind my family's gauntlet faces and walked the tiled hall, then outside to the dawn. I'd always been an outsider in this city of certainty. Everyone seemed to move with purpose, degrees lined up like dominoes, internships, arranged meetings, apartments in Gangnam built upon family loans. I was the shadow in the corner. My friends' parents stopped talking when I visited. Neighbors turned away, hiding whispers inside K-drama reruns and herbal tea. My mother's sighs thickened every year. Every time another rejection letter arrived or a gig paid in exposure. I would snap photos at protests, riot shields glinting, police radios hissing static warnings, waiting for the right moment. Every time, there was the same question. Who would listen if someone told the truth? In a place where facts were curated and shame bought in supermarkets, I wanted to believe stories could matter, that a single paragraph could change someone's life. The dream was ridiculous. I knew that. I remember my journalism professor, years ago, staring across her chipped mug. What you're asking for, Minseo, may never give you peace. You must still bear it. The city pressed down on me that spring. Rent hovered, jobs dried up. I wrote freelance whenever possible, an online column about factory spills, a food piece about the underground markets in Dongdaemun. My name appeared below articles, an unfamiliar shape. Each time I called home, my mother's voice was tired. The same refrain, find a real job, real security. At parties, people asked if I had a boyfriend, an office, an apartment. When they heard journalist, they muttered, must be fun, and checked their watches. I told myself it didn't matter, but the loneliness ate at me. Nights I stayed up scrolling through my old notes, unfinished interviews, half-hearted dreams of a book no one would publish. I was exhausted, ashamed. That summer, in a sweltering cafe that reeked of failed exams and iced Americanos, my phone buzzed. It was an anonymous email. Subject, urgent. The body said, "You want truth? I have it. Meet me midnight Namdaemun, Old Market Gate." I called the number. Anonymous, raspy voice. Hints about documents, about city contracts, bribes, evictions. It was the oldest story in the world here. Money changing hands beneath shiny skyscrapers. The fear was real. If I went, I could lose everything. If I didn't, I had nothing anyway. That night, the market lights blinked like tired lanterns. My source, a man in a parka, face shadowed, passed a thumb drive into my palm. "You print this? You'll pay, you know." He didn't wait for an answer. I rode home with blood in my throat. The files contained audio recordings, emails, photos, a city councilor, a real estate developer, hush arrangements, forged signatures. It was dangerous and enormous. My first instinct was to run or to hide. Instead, I started writing. 3 days without sleep, cross-checking names and dates, translating slang, following digital breadcrumbs through city databases and late-night calls. The pieces fell, reluctantly, into place. The story burst open. I sent drafts to every major publication in Seoul and got nothing. Not even a rejection. I tried a Tokyo wire service, a London nonprofit site. Finally, a Hong Kong website agreed to publish it. When it erupted, it felt like a fever. Some readers called it fake. Others demanded follow-up. TV crews replayed the audio, blurred the documents, speculated. A city councilman resigned. Anonymous threats poured in. My editor, a woman named Elaine, called from abroad. "You're brave or stupid. Minseo. They want you to stop." She offered a byline, a series. My family heard about it from the neighbors first. "Your friend's daughter's article is on the English internet," someone told my mother. She whispered this to my uncle, who asked what good it did for anyone. There were rumors I'd put the family in danger, that we'd be blacklisted. My mother didn't speak to me for a month. When I visited, she looked at me like a stranger. "You're making enemies no one can protect you from." The threats grew worse. I moved apartments. My friends stopped inviting me out. But people started calling. Other journalists, whistleblowers, even a rapper who wanted to write a song about the noodle shop scandal. My byline multiplied. I traveled. I wrote more. Years sluiced by. I tried to check in, calling home on holidays. Sometimes my father would answer, each time feebler, his voice a thin reed. "Try not to upset your mother." I missed weddings, funerals, birthdays, milestones marked by polite text messages. Seoul still felt like a city of glass, where I'd pressed my palms and couldn't break through. Work swallowed most of my heart. I won awards I couldn't bring myself to frame. I was nominated for international prizes, the Asian Human Rights Medal, the Kavli. My face appeared in photos over stories about unspeakable things, human trafficking in the docks, unsafe schools, discrimination in the workforce. The craziest part was, people had begun to listen. Politicians referenced my work. Laws changed, slowly, reluctantly, like a stubborn machine grinding forward. But whenever I hit send on a new exposé, my skin burned with old fear. It never went away. You cannot tear down walls without cutting your own hands. There's always a cost. Always a new beginning stitched from the leftovers of defeat. 10 years after that first hospital corridor argument, I returned. It was late spring again. Cherry blossoms spattered the sidewalks, their papery limbs already brown at the edges. Spring in Seoul is cruel, sugar on the wound. I landed at Incheon, train humming toward the heart of the city. Everything seemed smaller and sharper. I was a guest in a life I'd barely survived. Outside, the city had swelled taller, newer digital billboards replacing posters. new scandals dancing on old screens. The old markets I had wandered for sources lay bulldozed, replaced by glass hotels. My parents' neighborhood barely changed. Laundry fluttered on fifth-story wires. Halmanis swept the front walks, side-eyeing me over their masks. I stood at the door, heart drumming as I buzzed the bell. My mother opened the door, smaller than I remembered. Her hair threaded with gray. "You're late," she said. I wanted to apologize, but my throat tightened. Flight delay. Stupid. Inside, the apartment was scrubbed within an inch of its life. My father, now in a wheelchair, sat by the window, sunlight puddling on the polished floor. My cousin Hari stood by the table, his wife and child already seated, exchanging weather talk with my Uncle Jamin. I realized suddenly that they had all grown older in my absence. Laugh lines, now trenches, shoulders stooped, glances wary. Mother motioned to the table. "Dinner." At first, talk was surface, only traffic, weather, the construction noise in the park.